blue-visored street cops to paramilitary trained, black helmeted, semi-automatic weapon toting, you know. Do you have a comment on that or a thought about it in the opinion?
Well, I think as we defer to the government and allow the government to get bigger and more bureaucratic and more abusive, that type of attitude occurs. But it's even local. You know, we can't be. I have to be cautious about criticizing police because most policemen are very, very good. But all you have to do is watch the television and how much abuse is going on, and it just seems to be a prevailing attitude and lack of respect for life. And the other day, I couldn't believe what I was watching done by policemen. They had somebody with his handcuffs, and this guy was choking him and throwing him around and kicking him around, and he was the police officer. Later on, he says, well, my excuse was, he didn't say that, but his excuse was he had been drinking, and that's why he was acting out of order. But it just seems to be a prevailing attitude, a lack of respect. But I associate that with lack of respect for life, all life, abortions, lack of respect for liberty, and if you can't, I always assumed that because of the abortion issue getting out of hand in the 1970s and in the 60s led to more child abuse. You know, if you can kill a child, why can't you abuse a child?
Right.
You know, and I think that's the way the government works, and I think that's the way the authorities are. And we do have a police state, and it's always this idea that they know what is virtuous and they're going to impose on it. It's the same attitude that we have, that we are so good and we're going to force other people to live like us. And I think domestically it's the same thing, and we end up with this aggressive attitude. And like, if you're a businessman, oh, well, you aren't capable of taking care of the safety of your business people, not recognizing the fact that, you know, it's a pretty good common sense to take care of your workers. But no, we have to have some federal agent, the OSHA agent and the EPA agents, they come in with guns and they march in without search warrants and march in, deal with it. It's just a whole attitude of this deference to government rather than deference to liberty.
What do you think of the possibility of a draft?
Of a draft. Unfortunately, I think that it's coming closer and closer. And there's two things, well, there are probably going to be two things that are going to happen. One, springtime, everybody I've talked to in Washington on the military said that our troops are going to be in such shambles, there's just not going to be enough troops to go around, and they're going to need more personnel. Today it wouldn't pass, but if we have another incident, contrived or whatever, the people in this country are going to be angry and they're going to say, we've got to go do it. If there's a ship blown up, let's say Osama bin Laden blows up a ship and 500 Americans are killed and he blames it on the Iranians. How are we going to restrain it? I mean, there will be marching on Tehran, and they're going to be calling up everybody. There's going to be a draft, and it'll be a complication from our interventionist foreign policy. But the evil would have been done, and you wouldn't be able to ignore it. And I am very frightened about the draft. The income tax. Pardon me?
We couldn't restrain Pearl Harbor.
No, that is true. And there was justification there, even though we made some mistakes before that as well. But the income tax makes the assumption that the government owns all your wealth. The other principle that assumes the government owns our life, not we ourselves, and that our life and our liberty comes from our government, because it says that when you're 18, you owe it to your government to march any place they tell you to go. And of course that to me is obviously involuntary servitude, and I am convinced also that the American people that I know, 99% of them, if we were ever attacked a serious way and threatened by an outside force, I don't think we'd have to depend on 18-year-olds. Right. I think we would depend on every one of us to fight a battle like that. But those aren't the kind of battles we're fighting today.
That kind of brings us to what your position on the militia would be. State militia and the whole constitutional...
Well, I think the militia is legal and proper. It's been undermined and distorted, and everybody misunderstands it. I think our Air National Guard and Army National Guard is the militia, and they've distorted the definition of the Second Amendment. No, the militia should be permissible. I mean, it should be... almost an expansion of some of the things that prop up these neighborhood groups that get together and protect the neighborhood. The police don't protect us. You know, there's no way the police protect us. So I think the militia is a good idea. We should be bringing those troops home, shrinking the size of our military. We could defend this country against anybody in the world today with 1/10 of what we have. We probably would need several submarines. Who would attack us? You know, we have enough firepower on our submarines to take care of anybody. We are not threatened militarily. You know, and the oath that we take is to defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. Our concern is the domestic threat to our liberties, and I think the idea of the militia would help us in that manner. I think.
Thank you, Dr. Paul, for coming this afternoon. But like any presidential candidate, he has places to go and people to see. So I'm going to close with handing it over to one of Dr. Paul's field organizers, Mike Fiala, for a last.
Thank you. I'm just going to say a word about this. But this last week, those of you who are active in the campaign probably know that there was a push on to raise $500,000 in this last week, and well, I think we went over $1 million, and the quarter ends tonight. There would be great publicity. You know, I just want to say that I was at that rally yesterday in Manchester, and Dr. Paul alluded to it, but there were like 600 or 700 or 800 people there, and WMUR couldn't even come around the corner to film this. It wasn't that important. Meanwhile, I saw an article that John McCain was drawing huge crowds. He drew 250 people somewhere, and you know, it's really a disconnect. But I'll tell you, if this kind of fundraising is just going over the top and is really impressing people, we're getting harder and harder to ignore. Anyone who's interested can find out the information. These envelopes are over there, along with other literature, and you can it'll count towards this quarter, and it'll be a tremendous boost to the Paul candidacy, to the Paul campaign. And I thank you all for coming. Anyone who has any questions or anything, please feel free to get in touch with me. Thank you very much.